I'm going to talk briefly about some of the essential organizational patterns that are available to you. And just some general guidelines to kind of think about is really just have a strategy in mind. And this is partly what is it that you want to accomplish? What kind of speech are you giving? And really just let the topic guide you. You can't force a topic into a structure that doesn't make sense. And a lot of times the topic and just what you read about it, just the organizational pattern just presents itself. So again, don't force it and just go with what makes sense. If something doesn't fit what is one of the options that we, kind of cover in the class and in this chapter, then, just go with what seems to be available to you. So one of the first ones is spatial. So it has very limited context, and it's really just about how things are arranged in space, and that really is confined to very particular kinds of speeches. So, for example, I could give a speech about land that's discovered under melted ice near the North Pole, and there is significant oil reserves believed to be under it, and it's unclear about who has the rights to those minerals, to the oil, and different principalities are arguing about who gets to have it, and so I can give a speech about the spatial part of it. So Russia says um, that they should have the right to be there because they're physically closer to it. Canada says they have a right because their land stretches the furthest north, even if it's not closest to that particular spot. The US says, well, we should have it because we went under the ice with a submarine and put a flag on the ocean floor, and so we claimed it. And Greenland says that they should be able to access the minerals because they are actually, their ice cap touches that ice where no other country does that, and so they at least have a physical connection to it. And so all of that's about the spatial arrangement rather than some other arrangement that would make sense. Chronological again has that particular application about the order of things. Something like a biography makes a lot of sense. Starting at time A and ending at time B. And really, what you should be able to do is telling a story rather than just listing facts. When these speeches go wrong, it's that and then, and then, and then this happened, and then this happened, without really sort of a connection, a narrative tying them all together. So an example of this would be about talking about our reliance on internet for research and how we initially started with going to the library and pulling out the card catalog and then having some of that available on a computer and then still going to find the hard copies and then initially having some resources available online to now almost exclusively being online. And so just sort of that transition and the introduction of new technology and how that changed how we do research. Problem solution is pretty specifically for persuasion outcomes, in which you identify a problem and you attempt to completely solve that problem. It is really a one-to-one ratio of information. You don't provide a problem you can't solve. That doesn't show that you're being very persuasive, right? So here are 6 problems, but I can fix one of them. That's not a very interesting or useful speech for your audience to listen to. So for an example, tradable permits for greenhouse gas emissions. So the logic would be something like this. We're producing too many greenhouse gas emissions. It's causing global warming. We need to do something about it. So we need to create a financial incentive for people to pollute less. Tradable permits gives a cap on how much you can pollute. And if you go under that amount, you can then sell your remaining emissions to a company who didn't keep within their limit, and so it creates a financial incentive to pollute less, or it's sold back to the government, so the government would buy back those emissions, so you get money for polluting less. It is a little different than a cause and effect. Cause and effect is usually something about that's going to happen in the future. Problem solution is something that's happening now and how we need to fix it. Cause and effect is just a little different arrangement in which you can say, here's this thing that's happening that's gonna cause a problem, and that we need to go out and fix it. And the last is the topical arrangement. So I gave the examples, in each of those speeches, and those are very specific speeches and fit the very specific structure. probably 99% of the time, topical arrangement is what you go with. It's just what makes sense. The topic demands a particular pattern. It doesn't fit spatial or chronology or anything else. So, for instance, there is an inflatable church. A guy made it, and it looks like a giant bounce house with little stained glass windows and pews that he brings in. So, if you want to get married in your backyard, and you still want to get married in a church, you can inflate the church, have your reception in the same space, deflate it, haul it away, and then you have the party all in one spot. Church and party ready to go. That doesn't fit problem solution. That's not chronology. That's not spatial. It's just, why is he doing this? What do we get from it? And what can you learn from it? And so the organizational pattern is usually, what can you do based on the topic and the information that you have?